It's been more than a week now at this point since a right-wing domestic terrorist shot multiple people in Kenosha following days of protest over the attempted murder of Jacob Blake by a number of cops. And despite all of this time and all of these developments, Donald Trump and his representatives have not spoken to the Blake family or their representatives. They've spun any number of different lies that had to be debunked about their efforts to do so. But Bill Barr was being interviewed and he was asked, what if you had an opportunity? What message would you have for the Blake family? And here's what he said.
You, nor the president, had a chance to meet with him, or his family for that matter. What would be your message to them?
To who?
To the Blake family.
I guess my message to them would be what it would be to all Americans, which is in cases where it's possible or there's concern over excessive force, we have a process in this country to make that determination. And it involves initially the state looking at it and also the federal government. And we are investigating it. And that should follow due process and be fair to everybody, including the police officer. And violence is not appropriate. Our justice system has to respond to analysis, reasoned analysis, not mob violence.
So
that's his message, Adrian. First of all, I left in the who to who, because again, the body language, he knows. What do you think? What was Wolf Blitzer talking about? He's talking about the Blake family. What's your message to who? Because I don't care. I'm barely even paying attention to you. This isn't a topic that actually matters to me. That's what I got from it.
Oh, absolutely. And it's not. And that's the thing, that you have these representatives in place who only care about a certain subset, which is white and wealthy. And they're gaslighting the rest of us and creating this narrative that injustice is a fiction of our own minds and that we are criminals and that we are just looking to tear apart the democracy. When if anything, we are reinforcing the fact that this needs to be an operable democracy and that the people need to be taken care of. And yet he can't even muster some sense of decency to acknowledge Blitzer's question and to actually address the Blake family, which would essentially be addressing Black people. He has been.
Yeah, there was no, my heart goes out to them. Absolute tragedy. The idea that they would have to go through this experience, that he's gonna be injured, potentially paralyzed for the rest of his life. That's just devastating. That would be a result of an interaction with law enforcement. And we should aim for an America where no individual, Black, white, or whatever, should ever have to go through none of that.
Nope.
It was just.
And that was a basic PR response, it's like you could have done it justice, but instead you act like you couldn't even hear the question. And the reality is that Black people are shot and killed by police at twice the rate, if not more, than white people. And the fact that we have studies showing that, a 2020 Northeastern Harvard data-driven study of 27 states just came out earlier this year. So for people to continue to act like this is a non-issue, it really shows how much they are into maintaining the system of institutionalized racism and the fact that police brutality is only a problem for a small segment of the community, which is us and people who look like us.
Yeah, and by the way, if you're a regular person watching all of this and thinking, does the Trump administration think that they have to project any empathy at all after the last few months? Bill Barr's message to the family was, it's gonna be due process. Just let the system continue. Why are you getting on about me? And then the violence and the looting and all of that, which is the Blake family doing that? Because remember, this is a message to the Blake family. Are they killing people? No, that's their message. He doesn't care. He went on, by the way, to say when Wolf Blitzer asked him about, in one question he asked about Blake as well as George Floyd, he said, well, hold on, let's not lump these together, okay? And Wolf Blitzer's like, well, why aren't we talking about both of these as an instance of police brutality? And he said, well, in the case of George Floyd, he was unarmed and he was already restrained, whereas Floyd was committing a felony and he was armed. And Wolf Blitzer said, well, no, he wasn't armed. There might have been a knife in the car, but he wasn't armed at all. And Barr said, I made my position clear. He doesn't care, and that's honest. They don't actually care whether he was armed. And if he had a knife, that's justification to unload every bullet you have in his back. The idea is that what Jacob Blake was about to do was he was going to turn around with a knife, feet away from his kids, and begin murdering cops left and right in front of them. That's That's the future that they're saying was so guaranteed that the cops were justified in unloading their pistols into his back. But again, that's what they believe. They always believe that if it's a black individual, they're going to lose it like a villain in a comic book and begin killing people randomly. There was only one person there that was exhibiting that sort of callous disregard for human life. And it was the cop, the one that Bill Barr is actually defending.
Yes, and something that really seems to resonate with me is that it's the cop's narrative that there was a knife in his car. You know what, that knife could have been a knife from Popeyes. It could have been a spork, the way these law enforcement lie. So to run with that narrative that was fed out into the media, it's nonsensical. The cops have lost any kind of credibility in my eyes. So when they come forward and say, oh, so-and-so, we thought they had a gun, or oh, we thought they were armed. Yeah, right. It reminds me of the Dave Chappelle skits of sprinkle a little crack on it, and how these officers do what they need to do to justify the criminality that they engage in.
Yeah, and if you are a conservative watching this, I would like to ask you a question. If you have a knife in your car or truck, are cops allowed to murder you if you go near your car? Because I know a lot of you got knives in your trucks. You certainly have guns in some of them. If you got a gun in your trunk, in your truck, do they get to murder you? And then if they find something later, say that that was the justification. You don't actually believe that. You definitely don't believe that. And you've certainly seen the videos recently of white individuals literally pointing guns at protesters, at cops, and the cops don't shoot them. Even though it's not some sort of like speculation about whether they might have a spork. They're pointing a deadly weapon at people, but they can be managed. Okay, we can take that from them without any bloodshed necessarily. But if Jacob Blake is within 10 feet of a spork, he's gotta die. He's gotta die. And again, that's what Bill Barr, the lead law enforcement official in America, is saying.
For more political news, breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.